takes a lot of time and effort to get them ready. Nowadays, most carpenters buy these off the shelf and install them. In this session, you will learn about the various kinds of molding and beading available in the market and how to install them. After completing this session, you will be able to identify the different types of beading and molding, to fix molding and beading. Beading is a type of wooden trim that is used in carpentry to add detail to furniture or cabinets. It is mostly used to cover the uneven edges of tables, cabinets, and other furniture items. Let's look at some of the common designs available in the market. Flat beadings. The flat beadings are like a flat strip of wood that have slight round-shaped edges. Half-round beadings. The half-round beading looks like a round curve fixed to the edge of a wooden article like a box or door, etc. This beading is flat from one side and fully round from the other side. The flat side of the beading is attached to the wooden article. Customized beadings. These are the beadings that are customized or created as per the requirement. Molding is a more elaborate form of beading. A molding is mostly used in joinery work. These decorative devices make it easier to join door and window casings and hide the seams from sight. Let's take a look at a variety of common moldings. Concave. This kind of molding has a concave surface like the interior of a circle. Convex. A convex molding is rounded outwards. Curved. Curved molding is another style of decorative molding. It features two continuous curves that form a concave and convex arc. Decorative moldings also come in a wide variety of embossed patterns and profiles. Let's see how to install a flat beading on a single drawer front edge. Beading and molding strips are available in running feet and are not more than 8 feet in height. Measure and calculate all the length where it is going to be fixed. This will determine the total length of the strips you need to purchase. Consider buying a little extra length than you need. Before you start, ensure the back side of your beading is smooth and even. If it is slightly uneven, use a smoothing plane to smoothen it. Using a measuring tape, measure the length of the drawer edge from side to side. Cut the strips to this measurement. You will need a set of 2 strips of the same size. One set will fit on the top and bottom edge, while the other will fit on the side edges. Check and ensure that they are accurate. Give a miter cut to the corners of the strips. To miter cut your beading, use a bevel edge chisel to make a 45-degree miter angle cut on the corner of the beading strips. Dry fit the two pieces to check the accuracy. Once satisfied, apply glue on the inner side of the strip and place them on the face side edge of the drawer and align them properly to its edge. Press them and drive in some wire nails to strengthen it. Next, go on to fix the side edge strip. Here, you need to ensure that both the miter cuts are seamlessly joined with each other at the corner. While they are aligned to the edge of the drawer. Similarly, go on and fix the other sides and you are done. You can choose to polish or stain the beading to match the drawer's finish in contrasting colors for a more dramatic effect. Keep following precautions in mind while installing beading and molding. Consider buying some extra length of beading that you need to allow for mistakes and waste material. Cut your beading to the exact size. Ensure the back side of your beading sits flush. If it is slightly uneven, use a smoothing plane to smoothen it. The beading pieces must fit tightly against each other. The corners must join perfectly. If the beading is not mitered properly, then you can use a chisel to correct it. Wipe away the excess glue with a damp cloth. As a carpenter, you will often have to work with glass. One skill that might come in handy is knowing how to cut the glass. This session will tell you about the commonly used glass. It will also give you directions to cut standard glass. After completing this session, you will be able to identify the types of glass commonly used in carpentry, use a glass cutter to cut glass, observe precaution while cutting glass. Let's briefly look at some of the different kinds of glass you'll run across. Window glass is the most common variety you are likely to work with. It's available in single and double weight thicknesses. Plate glass is both stronger and thicker than double strength window glass. While usually not more than 3 by 8 inch thick. Laminated glass. In this kind, 2 or more sheets of glass are bonded together by an extremely tough clear plastic. Mirrors or looking glass need no introduction. The reflective coat you see is a thin coat of metal, copper, bronze or chromium. Generally, an expert is called to cut glass. At the same time, cutting glass is a handy skill that isn't difficult to pick up. Follow these simple steps to cut standard window glass. Step 1. Put on the safety glasses and gloves. Step 2. Lay the glass sheet on a padded surface, preferably one that is slightly soft and won't scratch your glass. Soft cardboard is an ideal choice. Step 3. Clean the glass surface along where you plan to cut. Any grime on the glass can ruin your score. Run a cloth along the surface of the glass. Step 4. Measure and mark the glass where you want to score. Leave about 6 inches of glass on each side to grip and break. Use a marker and a straight edge to draw the cutting line. You can also mark on paper and place the glass on top of the paper. Step 5. Dip the cutter in the cutting oil and grasp it like a pencil. Use the straight edge as a guide and score the glass in one even sweeping motion. If you score the glass properly, you'll hear a very pleasant sound like ripping silk. If you see little flakes of glass flying into the air or hear a gritty sound, means that you are pushing too hard or that you did not oil your cutter. Step 6. Run the cutter smoothly from one edge to the other. Ensure the scored line runs completely from one edge to the other. Step 7. After you've scored, go right ahead and snap the piece into two. Grasp the glass from each side of the scored line and snap the glass. Do not apply too much pressure. Step 8. Use fine sandpaper or a sharpening stone to remove the sharp edges. Take a look at the steps to cut glass again. Keep the following precautions in mind while cutting glass. Always wear eye protection and gloves, especially while handling glass. Lay your glass on a smooth, clean and level surface. Lubricate the cutting wheel with kerosene or cutting oil for a smoother cut. Do not press too hard when making your cut. Ensure the cutter tip is sharp. While aligning the straight edge along the cutting line, ensure you leave enough place for the cutter to run its course. Snap the two sections apart gently. Building a partition wall across a room can often help to make more practical use of available space. In this session, you will learn to build a low-height wooden partition. You will also learn the framing, assembling, painting phases of making a wooden partition. After completing this session, you will be able to estimate the material required for a wooden partition, construct a wooden partition. Every job needs careful planning. You must prepare the cutting list before you buy the material to construct a low-height partition. Your cutting list should also list out the tools required to make the workpiece. Have the necessary tools lined up before you start. In order to make a low-height partition, you will require nails, screws, woodworking adhesives, sandpaper as per your requirement, steel ruler, measuring tape, pencil, chalk line, tri-square, hand saw, plumb bob, nail punch, screwdriver, power drill, jack plane. Start examining the work drawing for dimension and design of the low-height partition. The simplest way to make partition walls is to construct a framework to which plywood can be fitted on each side. Traditionally, timber is used for making the framework. Here, a softwood partle for the wall frame of 4 into 8 feet has been used. Always use wood of slightly bigger dimensions. This gives you margin to true and smoothen the wood surface. Use 2 wood pieces of dimensions length 100 inches, width 2 3/4 inch, thickness 2 1/4 inch. These will be used to make the top and bottom members. Use an additional 5 pieces of the same softwood of the following dimensions: length 50 inches, width 2 3/4 inch, thickness 2 1/4 inch. These will form the studs of the wall frame. Use 2 wooden pieces of dimensions width 2 3/4 inch, thickness 2 1/4 inches. Cut these to 6 pieces to form the noggins. In order to complete the wall, select 2 plywood pieces of 6 mm thickness. Now that the preparation is done, it is time to get started on your workpiece. Before you start to cut down the parts for your partition, you must plane all the wooden pieces and bring them to the required thickness and width. Select the side free from blemishes and knots. Use a jack plane to smoothen the face side and face edge flat. Use a tri-square to check if the edges are cut square. If required, smoothen it further. Mark them as the face side and face edge. All other measurements must be taken from either face side or face edge. Here we are making a half wall partition of 6 feet by 4 feet. Cut the wooden members to the requisite size. Then support the wooden piece on the bench top and using a portable saw, cut along the scribed line. Similarly, cut the other wooden piece in the same manner. Build the partition skeleton on the floor and raise it afterwards. To build the partition, you must place the studs between the top and bottom members as shown in the work drawing. Here we will use a combination of common mortise and tenon joints and stub mortise and tenon joint to assemble the partition. The studs will fit on the top and bottom rails with a common mortise and tenon joint, and the noggins will be fitted to the studs with the stub mortise and tenon joint. Step 1. To begin with, measure the position for each of the stud on the top and bottom rail. Using a tri-square and a pencil, mark out all the lines representing the center for the mortise groove for the placement of the studs. In all, you will make 5 such positions for the studs. Now measure and mark the width for the mortise grooves with the mortise gauge on all the 5 positions on both the sides of the top and bottom rails. Step 2. Secure the wooden piece firmly to the workbench with a G-clamp. Use a mortise chisel to start the cut in the middle. Then use a bevel edge chisel for the side cuts. Keep the combination of these two. Chisel down halfway through the mortise hole and clear out all debris from inside the mortise to leave a clean hole. Reset the workpiece to the other side. Chop out the waste in the same way till you meet the cutout from the other side. Similarly, chisel out all the mortise grooves on the top and bottom rails. Now, when you are done with the mortise grooves on the top and bottom rails, you need to carve in the stub mortise on the studs for the noggins to fit in. Step 3. Mark and carve the stub mortise grooves. Measure the position for the noggins on each stud and mark out all the lines on them. You will mark 12 such positions for the stub mortise on each of the 5 stud members as per the work drawing. Now, mark the width for the stub mortise grooves on all the positions on both the sides of the stud members. Secure the wooden piece firmly on the workbench with a G-clamp. Chisel out the stub mortise in the middle. Chisel down halfway through the mortise hole and clear out all the debris from inside. Similarly, carve out the stub mortise on all the stud members. Now that you have done all the mortise grooves, you need to work on the tenons to complete the mortise and tenon joints. Step 4. Mark and cut the tenons to size. Measure and mark the tenon length from the edge of one end of the piece and scribe the shoulder lines around all the edges. Adjust the mortise gauge to the center and scribe a parallel line for the width of the tenons. Then, support the wooden piece to the bench top And start cutting with a handsaw along the waist side of the line till the shoulder line on both the edges. While cutting, take care not to overrun the shoulder lines. Reset the tenon member, cut down the edges on the other side. Then, secure the tenon member to the workbench with a G-clamp and chisel out. First, place a stud member with 2 grooves on the floor and apply glue onto the mortise and on the tenons of the noggins and start fixing them one by one and tap them. Similarly, use the same process for mark and cut the tenons to size. Step 5. Apply glue and assemble the partition. First, place a stud member with 2 grooves on the floor and apply glue onto the mortise and on the tenons of the noggins and start fixing them one by one and tap them lightly with a hammer to fit in. Remember, do not use the hammer directly on the workpiece as it may leave marks on them. Place a piece of a scrap wood in between. Then apply glue onto the tenons of the fixed noggins and into the mortise of the other stud member and fix it onto the tenon of the noggins. Remember, from now on, you'll need a helping hand to assemble the partition further. Similarly, keep fixing the noggins to the stud members part by part. Till you have fixed the last stud member of all the 5 members. Once done, ask a helper to help you rotate the frame so that you can fix it onto the top and bottom rails. Apply glue onto the tenon on the top side of the studs and place the bottom rail on top of it and tap the bottom rail lightly with a hammer till it fully sets in. Then once again rotate the frame and apply glue onto the tenon and place the top rail over it. Clamp the studs on the center with a T-bar clamp tightly so that the mortise and tenon members align properly with each other and tap lightly with a hammer till they fully set in. Before you move ahead, drive in some screws onto the joints. Place the frame onto the floor and drill holes on all the joints. While doing so, fix the joints with a T-bar clamp. For the joints to fit in and the holes you drill for the screws are at the right place. Fix the screws and tighten it with a screwdriver. Do it on all the joints. Now you are done with your partition frame. Step 6. Mark the floor with chalk line. Measure the distance where you want your partition to stand up from the wall and put a temporary mark on the floor. Hold a chalk line string at one end of the mark and ask a helper to hold the string directly over the other mark. The string must be stretched tightly. Lift and snap the string from the middle. This will give you a straight line, a reference for your partition frame to stand. 7. Position the frame on the floor and align it to the wall. Place the partition frame on the chalk line. Ask a helper to lend you a hand. Position the frame so it sits flat on the marked line and perpendicular to the wall. Once in place, check if the frame is held straight against the wall. To do this, you will need a plumb bob. Hold the plumb bob from the top edge of the frame and allow it to hang at the bottom of the frame. Slow the plumb bob from swinging with your hand. Once it is still, the plumb bob should touch the frame slightly. Determine the distance from the string to the frame sides at both the top and the bottom. If required, adjust the frame until both are equal. Step 8. Secure the frame with screws. Once the frame is aligned, drill a hole on the frame and the wall and put the screws in place and tighten them to secure it. Then secure the bottom to the concrete floor in the same manner. Your low-height partition is ready. Just one thing remaining to do, the finishing touch. Step 9. Give finishing touches. All you have to do is paint it according to the color of the wall and attach plywood sheets on top and the side edge. Paint the frame first with the matching color of the wall to match the rest of the room. When done, use a plywood sheet to cover the top and side of the frame. Ensure that each sheet is of the same width so that they are perfectly aligned at the edge. Use nails to attach the plywood. Make sure the top edge of the plywood is flush with the top edge of the top member. Now you are done. Go ahead and apply the plywood with the same color. Similarly, you can make other walls of a small cubicle. Doors can also be easily attached to a partition wall. Let's quickly look at the procedure once again. Step 1. Mark the position for the studs. Step 2. Carve out the mortise grooves. Step 3. Mark and carve the stub mortise grooves. Step 4. Mark and cut the tenons to size. Step 5. Apply glue and assemble the partition. Step 6. Mark the floor with chalk line. Step 7. Position the frame on the floor and align it to the wall. Step 8. Secure the frame with screws. Step 9. Give finishing touches. It is time to polish your carpentry skills and create something of use at the same time. In this session, you will learn to create a basic chair. After completing this session, you will be able to estimate the material required for a basic chair, construct a basic chair as per the drawing. You must prepare the cutting list before you buy the material to construct a basic chair. A cutting list must specify the length, width and thickness of the wood. For making the chair, you will need to cut out the following pieces from the wood. Back legs 1000 into 50 into 50 millimeters, quantity 2. Front legs 450 into 50 into 50 millimeters, quantity 2. Framing pieces 500 into 50 into 50 millimeters, quantity 2. Framing pieces 400 into 50 into 50 millimeters, quantity 4. Bottom rails 500 into 25 into 25 millimeters, quantity 2. Center rail 400 into 25 into 25 millimeters, quantity 1. Chair top to be made with the 19 millimeter plyboard 550 into 450 into 19 millimeters, quantity 1. The list should also state the tools required to make the workpiece and the quantity required. In order to make a basic chair, you will require a steel ruler or measuring tape, a pencil, a marking gauge or cutting gauge, a tri-square, a handsaw, a jack plane, a smoothing plane, a mortised chisel, a firmer chisel, a wooden mallet, a T-bar clamp, a hammer, a pincer, nails, a sandpaper, and some adhesive. Now that the preparations are done, it is time to get started on your workpiece. All the measurements must be taken from either face side or face edge. Measure and mark the points on the back leg for the tapering bend on the backrest. Use a steel ruler and pencil to draw taper lines from both the width points. Once the layout has been marked, secure the piece to the bench vise and start cutting with a saw. Ensure that you cut along the waist side of the wood, staying within the scored lines. Loosen the vise and swap the side and cut out all the waste wood from the piece as marked in the layout. Support the piece to the bench top and smoothen the surface with a bench plane or smoothing plane. Clean out the piece until they are smooth and flat. Ensure the squareness of the piece with a tri-square on regular intervals. Clean the work area of the wooden shaves left behind. Now, with a spoke shave, give the curvy shape to bend on the center part of the back leg. Similarly, mark the layout for the other legs, framing pieces and support rails, and prepare them according to the dimensions mentioned in the table. After you are done with cutting the parts to size, you need to carve out the mortise and tenon joints for joining them together. Measure and mark the points where your backrest, framing pieces and support rails would join. Adjust the mortise gauge and scribe 2 lines for the mortise groove on the back leg, leaving a 12 mm gap from the top edge on the inner side for the backrest. Then, leaving a gap of 70 mm from the bottom, mark 1 mortise groove on the front face for the bottom rail. Similarly, mark 2 mortise grooves on the front face and side face at the center of the leg for the framing pieces. Secure the back leg to the workbench with a G-clamp. Remember to place a piece of scrap wood in between the clamp jaw to avoid marring on the workpiece. Now with a mortise chisel and wooden mallet, chisel out a mortise. Remember to keep the mortise edges inside the depth clean and sharp, as the tenon will not be a perfect fit if the edges are rough. Use the same process for carving out all the mortises on the other side as well. And you are ready with the back leg with the mortise grooves. Similarly, repeat the same process for carving out all the mortises on the other back leg piece as well as the 2 front legs. When you are ready with the mortise groove, you need to work on the tenons. Now take 1 framing piece, measure and mark the points for the length of the tenon on both the edges. With the tri-square, draw a shoulder line all around the piece. This will determine the length of the tenon. Now adjust the mortise gauge and scribe a parallel line all around the edges for the thickness of the tenon. After marking, secure the member to the workbench and cut out the tenon with a saw. Reset the piece on the clamp and cut from the other edge on both the sides. With a chisel, clean out the remaining wastewood from the edges. Remember to keep the tenon edges clean and sharp, as it will not fit perfectly into the mortise if the edges are rough. In the same way, carve out tenons on all the framing pieces, bottom rails and the backrest panels. Test fit the tenon and the mortise joints in all the wood pieces to ensure that you have a perfect fit. If required, cut the tenons to size as needed. For the framing pieces, you need to give a mitre cut at the end of the tenon. Ensure that they fit flush when fixed without obstructing the other. Now you are ready with all the parts to size to construct a basic chair. When you are ready with all the parts of your chair, dry fit once for your satisfaction to ensure the perfectness of the joints. Before assembling the chair, smoothen all the wooden members and legs if required with a smoothing plane.
अरे गीता, तुम मेरे घर आई ये तो बहुत अच्छी बात है। वास्तव में मुझे इंटरनेट के बारे में कई महत्वपूर्ण बातों को समझने में तुम्हारी मदद की जरूरत है।
जरूर चाचा, मैं यहाँ आपकी मदद और मार्गदर्शन के लिए आई हूँ।